Hello, Facebook. Good evening. Hello. Good evening, everyone. Just setting up right now to go live on Instagram and off with you guys as well. I hope everybody's having a beautiful week thus far. Just setting up to go live on Instagram. So, as much as I love affirmations. Let me make sure I'm doing the right thing right now because I'm the type of be okay. Making sure I was on because it didn't give me notification. Okay, yeah. So I love affirmations. I love positivity and just spreading love and everything like that, and just giving wisdom and stuff like that. Hey, Nikki. So today just going to be a little bit of a different wave from how what we normally talk about. We've been talking about mindset for the past couple weeks and just been encouraging you on your purpose and your capacity and your self-esteem and everything like that. But I cannot turn a blind eye to the reality amongst that it's kind of like the reality of the social distress that's kind of like seeping into our personal lives emotionally. So I guess let me speak for myself. Even for me, it has been taking a toll on me emotionally, and just being grounded in a biblical aspect and just really every day trying to walk out this walk as a Christian woman, Black Christian woman, and really trying to put things into perspective without being too biased at the same time. Really just want to really, make sure that my heart is postured in a way that is, I guess, fair in a way, and just kind of looking at things in both aspects of the spectrum, as a civilian, as a Christian, just so many things. Because, sometimes our initial reaction is to just react in the flesh, like it made me sad to just know what's going on, with the police brutality and even just everything that's going on with like the looting and people just vandalizing and just, having like their uproar, and just knowing that there are people taking a stand, going out there protesting, which is beautiful, because that is a right. We have the right to express ourselves through speech and everything like that. And I just, really had to take the time to really find it in myself not to feed my flesh with too much frustration, with anger, and just find peace and solace and know that God ultimately, has the answer. He's the one that's the Alpha, Omega, beginning and the end, and has the solution for everything that's going on right now. We may not understand it, but things are going to play out according to His will. And that's what we have to go by, just walking by faith and just really trusting what He's doing right now in the process, and not really looking too much or leaning on what man is doing, because I'm not into politics, but even with the government, that there's things that you can't really even wrap your mind around or really feel like you have a solid you can really rely on it. So the key thing is to just do like the Bible says, and to just pray for our leaders and pray for our families. We can plead the blood of Jesus over our families. We can protect our families through prayer, and just make sure that the younger generations behind us really understand what's going on, and just instill the principle of love, in their mindset, and just instill the principle of self-esteem, but not to a point where it's arrogant or it's prideful, just to have that self-love and to know their history and to know where they're coming from. I'm not a mother yet, but I could just imagine, even for a lot of mothers right now, what that conversation looked like, or even fathers, for fathers too, any parent, what that conversation looks like, because it may seem like they're oblivious to it, but the reality is that they know, they're paying attention. So there's an awareness, and it's tough. It's a hard pill to swallow, especially with yesterday. There was a lot of back and forth with different subgroups in the African American community, when it comes to you know entrepreneurs, business people, and there's just so many different aspects of people being frustrated, and it's something that, if we're not careful, it can even cause a division within our own community, as African American people. So it's just something that we really got to keep our eyes open and stay woke, and stay conscious and stay aware, and not rely too much on what is going on. Walk by faith and not by sight. Don't go by what's just going on and what people may say, because, election time is coming up. So anyway, I know I said a mouthful, but essentially I just wanted to use my platform to say, vote, please vote. If you have that right, you're a citizen, register to vote. I just actually put a link in my bio not too long ago to, just for you to go click on that and exercise your right to vote, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of decisions that, are affected as far as like leadership when it comes to that. And we do have some say so. So I don't want to, I want to really disband that negative mindset that, oh, when we vote, it doesn't matter. Because I'm going to be transparent. I used to think like that. And the more I go into really thinking and asking God, like, well, what can I do? Because it's obviously, this is something that is beyond us. And I was confronted with this reality, and of, not voting in prior years. And I'm going to take a personal stance to stop doing that. And I'm going to make sure that I start voting, because the reality is we do have a say so. And when we don't vote and then things go a certain way, then we can't really be like going crazy, because we have the say so to put mayors in place, Congress in place, judges in place, all the people that really have the authority, so to speak, to put certain laws and bylaws and guidelines and everything that is being executed. The people that have the say so, the people that have the influence, we're the ones that put them there or allow them to be there by not voting. So we put them there by voting, or we allow them to be there by not voting. So it's like you choose. I just wanted to really, use my platform to encourage everybody to vote. There's a lot of things that are disheartening, sad, racial profiling, and, the police brutality. But at the end of the day, the only thing that we can say is, what can you do? What can I do? What impact can I make? Because I wanted to go by a couple of scriptures today to really solidify the angle that I'm coming from. Okay. And one of them that I really stand for is Galatians 6:7. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he so also reap. So what you sow is what you reap. So at the end of the day, if you're somebody who's out there cussing, fussing, beating people up, better remember in the back of your mind that that's coming to you. If you're somebody that's out there showing love and giving, and not to say that you're going to let yourself get taken advantage of, but if you're doing it with the right motive, you're doing things with the right motive, and you have the right intentions, that's going to come back to you. So many times I see money falling out of people's pockets, and I would think, oh my God, that's never going to happen to me. I've never dropped money in my pocket, but people will be like, oh, your phone or this or that. I'm like, oh my God, thank God. That's just a small example. of, what goes around comes around. So I want us to remember Galatians 6:7. So don't, do unto others as you would have it done unto you. That's another golden rule. That's Matthew 7:12. Okay. So in everything, do to others what you would have them to do to you. For this sums up the law and the prophets. So when God puts something into place that cannot be changed, that is considered a law. For example, in science, you have laws of gravity, right? So this, when God puts a law in the Bible, that's law. Like that song, that's is law, right? So in everything, do to others what you would have them to do to you, for this sums up the law. So this is something that God is taking, like, take seriously. So everything that you do to somebody, make sure it's something that you would have to do, be done unto you. So even though, as an African American woman, I've been followed around in the store, by loss prevention, because maybe my purse was so big and it looked a little fishy or whatever, and I was actually followed by my own. But that person's just doing their job. But at the same time too, sometimes it makes you wonder, but if I looked a little different with this big purse, would you follow me? So it's kind of those things that's socially tainting us, because it's a reality at the same time too. So we have to make sure that we're putting out good energy, because that's what we want to receive. So I'm basically, what I'm saying is, don't go and be negative because somebody doesn't look like you. Don't start, putting out those negative energies because, of the way a person looks, because that's what's happening to us. And we don't want to do it, because it's just going to create this never ending cycle, this never ending battle, this never ending whatever it is. It's stupid. If I cut myself, I'm bleed. If the person that doesn't look like me cuts themselves, they're gonna bleed too. Really and truly, it's like we're really all human, and we just gotta really realize that it's a community. It's a community. Unfortunately, that's not how everybody thinks. But if that's something that can start to permeate and just flow, it can become like a trickle effect. It can become a domino effect. Just going with love in the communities and just sharing love with one another. And that's something that I'm really going to take pride in, and really try to be more loving. I've always been that way anyway, but I'm going to really go like the extra mile. Like me, you could put me in a room with an Indian, a Jewish, a Jamaican, African, Hispanic, Honduran, Colombian. We going to talk. I don't know if that's just my heart or that's the way God made me. I don't know. I am a little entrepreneurial spirited. So by nature, I always want to network, but it's like, it has to be like deeper than that. It really has to be finding the person for who they are, seeing the person for who they are, loving them for who they are, because at the end of the day, there's something that we all can offer each other. I read a quote that said, your blessings are found in two things: books and people, right? So the key thing that we're not, for me personally, I'm not always reading a book, but I'm always around people. So for me, I'm always intentional about seeing like who has my blessing today. Whether it's a word of encouragement, whether it's a word of wisdom, whether it's a word of sound counsel. You know what I'm saying? I'm always looking for like who has my blessing today. And that's how we got to start looking at each other. We got to start looking at each other as blessings. Because if not, then we're really selling ourselves short, and we're just creating this never ending cycle of animosity. The time really went by fast. 15 minutes. Hit really fast tonight. So that's basically what I wanted to share tonight. I wanted to encourage you guys to vote. The link is in my bio. Register to vote. If you really want to exercise your voice in a strong way, it doesn't have to be violent. It doesn't have to be negative. It doesn't have to be just, like fighting fire with fire, so to speak. Let's vote, because that's something that we all have equal, our rights. So let's use our rights to vote for who do we want. Let's do our research. It's not always about just going Democrat, 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 all the way down the voting card. That's something that I've learned too. I've got the wisdom to realize too. I'm not, speaking to one side of the party. Like I said, I don't like to get too much into politics, but I'm not even a strong political debater. I just go by my discernment. But also going Democrat, 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 Democrat on all the way down, that could also lead to failure. We have to really research, or Republican, 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 all the way down, whichever party you subscribe to. But what I'm saying is we have to do our research as to who these people are. We have to make sure that they are people that we can trust with essentially like our social well-being when it comes to laws and regulations and justice. So please, guys, let's do our due diligence. It's becoming another point where we can, it's coming to another time where voting is going to happen again. We're right at that cycle. So let's just make sure that we exercise our rights and vote. So link is in my bio for my Instagrammers and my friends on Facebook. I am going to add the link to vote or register to vote in this post. So you guys have a blessed night. Remember that, God loves you. He wants to make sure that your actions are aligning with the type of love that he has for you. Like I always say, we are a reflection of him. So we must show that love. We must sow what we want to reap. If we want to reap love, we got to sow love. We want to reap positivity, we got to sow positivity. We want to reap goodness, we got to reap. We want to reap goodness, we got to sow goodness. Excuse me. So that's essentially what I'm saying today. Just make sure you're mindful of your actions and what you're saying during this time, because you don't want to regret it. You don't want to set a bad example for others that are around you, especially if you're a person of influence. And influence doesn't mean a million followers. Influence you could be a parent, you could be a teacher, you could be a church leader, you could be even in your job and have a certain level of influence, and the way you react is going to rub off on other people in a positive way or a negative way. Somebody could have had a neutral position on this whole social distress, but because they look up to you and they see how you're reacting, now they turned up. Now they turned up because you turned up. So we just got to be careful during this time. It's very sensitive. I'm not saying don't have feelings, don't have emotions. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying be careful how you react. Don't be too biased, and make sure you yield your flesh to how Jesus would want you to react. Okay? Love you guys. Have a blessed night. I love you. God loves you more. Good night.